In this episode, we bring you a panel discussion from the 51st ASEAN Innovation Business Platform, recorded in Jakarta, with leaders from Astra, BCA, Bank Mandiri, and Pertamina, as we explore how Indonesian enterprises are scaling AI. Please enjoy this episode from AIBP.
The AIBP ASEAN B2B Growth Podcast is a series of fireside chats with business leaders in Southeast Asia focused on growth in the region. Topics discussed include business strategy, sales and marketing, enterprise technology, and innovation.
See you again, Lily.
Hi.
Sorry. Nice to meet you, Sigit. Okay, today's session, I think what we would like to do, you can see the title here, right? Scaling AI for Global Competitiveness. I'd like to keep it as interactive as possible, meaning I hope you scan the QR code on the right and I hope you ask questions. I'd like for them to answer your questions because I think digital transformation is very, like I mentioned, right? It's not a science, it's not an art, it's a little bit of both. And in trying to do digital transformation, in trying to scale your organization, whether it's from an organizational structure perspective or even an enterprise IT structure perspective, there are a lot of things that you need to fit into the gap. So before we start the panel, please scan the QR code, put in your questions. I am looking at your questions on my mobile phone, and I'll try to pick out the questions. If you can, introduce yourself in there, put your name, put your organization so that we can identify you. If you're shy, it's okay. We don't need to do that. Another thing I'd like to say is, as I mentioned, all four of the representatives on this panel, you can see are all past or current Enterprise Innovation Award winners. So they didn't select themselves. It was, as I mentioned, it went through the normal market validation process. It was a long process. So all four of them have won Enterprise Innovation Awards, or their firms have. And another thing I'd like to point out, something I'm very, very proud of. I'm half Indonesian. We hold this conference every year in Thailand, in Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, as well as the Philippines. This is the third one we're holding this year. We already did it in Thailand, already in Malaysia. In Thailand, the keynote panel had 4 gentlemen. In Malaysia, the keynote panel had 4 gentlemen. So I am so lucky today that we have 2 distinguished ladies sitting on the panel with us. Not because I care so much about diversity, but gentlemen usually... Round of applause for them. Like I said, it's not because I care for diversity, but because gentlemen usually can be quite boring. Correct, Paul? So it's nice to have different perspectives. So without further ado, as I mentioned, I will look through the questions that you have. But before we carry on, I think I'd like to just get a brief of the panelists. We'll start maybe with Lily in terms of what you're doing in terms of AI. You know, I think everybody knows what BCA is. Everybody knows all the companies here. So maybe we want to just jump into it, right? What exactly is going on in terms of what you're looking at when it comes to AI and what the company is doing?
Yeah. Currently, for AI, we embark our AI journey along with the advancement of the technology itself. So we start with the machine learning, the structured machine learning technology. Later with the advancement of deep learning. So we start with the deep learning technology like computer vision, like the OCR technology, and right now with the Gen AI. So we start adopting the Gen AI in the internal business process, like for the productivity in the secure and the like coding to help the IT people how they can help the IT programmer in the coding assistant. Start using it for the some document analytic for internal process, like to do summarization, to comparing document, something like that. So, but in the future, we believe that with the advancement of technology in agentic AI, we see that it will unlock the potential of innovation and even the how we can more personalize engagement with the customer with the capability of the agentic AI to adopt with the technology with the different capability to integrate the different system and everything. I think we can do that to adopt it.
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting fact, especially coming from a financial services perspective, right? When we think about, just now, Pak Sony mentioned, innovation comes from startups, but it also comes from traditional enterprises. And traditional enterprises, banks are one of the biggest segments always when it comes to investing into digital technology. So I'd like to double click on that and maybe book Kurnia, welcome. And the question around what financial institutions can do, how agile they can be, especially when it comes to, you heard Pak Sony just now, they're just coming up with a governance framework, with a roadmap for AI. So within Mandiri itself, actually, what are you doing, and how are you trying to keep agile, especially as a regulated entity, and especially as a regulated entity doing things which are currently unregulated?
Okay, thank you, Pak Asra, for the question. So actually, in Mandiri, the journey of AI itself has gone a long way back, around 2018. But I think now we are kind of like in the era where we see a lot of opportunities with AI. But at the end of the day, it always have to be boiled down to what kind of goal we want to achieve, right? Because you can do so many innovation, you can do so many building an interesting stuff, but if it doesn't serve any purpose, it kind of divert us away from what we want to achieve. So we always try to tailor it to three things: whether it will help us in increasing our revenue, whether it will help us in improving our productivity and efficiency, and also whether it will help us in managing our risk better. So the implementation of AI, for example, what we do is in terms of the risk and security part, we also building kind of like a near real-time fraud detections, also looking at how we could improve better in predicting our users' ability to do repayment for the loan, and also in terms of combining both an advanced AI or machine learning with generative AI so that it will help our risk team as well as a cyber team to identify threat intelligence better, to identify fraud attempts better at kind of a scale. On the operational part, we also use it for improving our coding as well as seeing some things that can be automated. And I think in the revenue part, especially on improving a personalization, that's also what we try to embed in our platforms. And you're right, actually, this AI is also evolving very fast, and it required some governance. So we have what we call a kind of a governance on AI that mainly serve to ensure how we implement it. It has to be transparent. It has to be explainable, right? Because when you build an AI model, maybe we will stuck in like, oh, it's kind of like a black box. No, we can't just stop at that. We have to make sure it is explanatory enough and satisfying enough as well, not only for us, but also for our customer. And ethical as well as responsibility, right? We have to be aware as well that with this AI, with this new technology, there is also a new risk. There is also an unprecedented speed of potential threats that are coming in. So we also have to ensure we are ready and be agile enough for that. So the key is really about embracing the changes and be agile, learn to learn. So that's what we do in Mandiri.
Thank you. Now that the two interesting women have said their views, we go to the boring men. Pak Paul, I've known Pak Paul since 2022 when he first took on the role at Astra. And Paul has a very, very interesting role because he's responsible for both internal digital transformation as well as you work as well with startups in your ecosystem, right? So the main aim of this Astra is what, a 70 plus 68-year-old company, something like that, and it's been around for a long time. So you are working in both. You are both a traditional company as well as you are working with the startups who are driving innovation. So when you look at digital transformation, when you look at AI, and unlocking value for Astra as an organization, what are the main things you look at?
Yeah, it looks like a simple question, but the answer can be anywhere, right? Let me try to structure it in 3 points, right? Number one, about what is the value that we can unlocking? So I'm going to structure in 3 ways. Number one, about the governance and the organization, right? So how are we governance organization, including the business process? How can we improve the current business process? Because to be honest, a lot of the current business process will be disrupted with the technology. A lot of the business process that we have at the moment will change totally because of the new technology that we have. Some of the process, some of the organization that we need previously might not be needed again this time because of the changes technology. So number one, how can we actually to take a look on our business process, how to improve it, how to streamline it, how to create efficiency because of technology. Number two, in the technology itself, we'll talk easily like every CEO saying, oh, we need to deploy AI and so on. But unfortunately, a lot of them don't really understand what is the graphs about the AI behind it, right? Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, a lot of company, especially the tech company, basically they just want to sell SaaS, right? Why? Because then they can also sell the cloud inside it. They can also sell the storage inside it. You have to pay all of them, right? And they're also going to sell AI inside it. So if we're going to use all the SaaS by this company, right? The AI by them, how are we going to make our own AI? How can we actually own the proprietary of the AI ourselves? Because we're going to use the AI of all the SaaS. Because we're going to use most of this SaaS, how can we ensure that there is the integration around it, can be work seamless and for the purpose of the company? So that's our job to ensure about that. Number three, it's about the people itself. We need to reskilling, upskilling the people. So we have Astra has 200,000 people, employees and so on, right? In the wake of this new technology, the new way of working, we need to upskilling and reskilling people. Of course, a lot of people want to find a place, want to be comfortable in where they are, doesn't want to learn new things, but it's changing. We have to learn a new things every year now because of the fast of technology. Okay. Yes, people talk about Gen AI and so on because of ChatGPT. To be honest, ChatGPT actually the first one that democratized the access to the Gen AI. Before, nobody even talk about Gen AI. Okay. But by opening the gate to the Gen AI, a lot of things happening, right? Number one, the security. More than 60% of the attack now actually coming from AI. All the attack, the hacker and so on actually coming from the AI. So how are we going to prevent it from there? Number two, unfortunately, more than 30% of the hack incident actually happening because of our employees, ourselves. The mistake of our employee, the mistake that they using simple password, they are not actually considering it is okay to share the password with their team and so on and so on. And suddenly it's actually in hacker forum and so on. So that's the things you need to take a look. Number one, hacking actually more easier because of AI. Number two, we need to upskilling our people, educate them to understand what is the impact, what is the governance, to be able to protect ourselves. So to answer it, what is Astra doing around it? We are working on that 3 way. Number one, what is the governance, the business process around it? Number two, on the technology, what we do need to do that. And what is the opportunity we need to work around it? And number three, how actually we're going to upskilling and reskilling the people to be able to do that.
Just to double click on one thing you said, Paul, the idea of just buying from SaaS companies. A lot of these SaaS companies, yes, they are Indonesian ones, but most of the technology solution providers, as we know, they come from the Western world, Europe, US, to some extent China as well. It's not native to Indonesia. And I think standard across Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, there's this concern with regards to, are we just treated as end buyers, right? We are just consumer, we are just a buyer of technology. And there are questions from the audience today as well, right? What are your considerations when considering solutions?
Okay, good question. So I think all the innovation know this term, right? Kesempatan dan kesempitan, right? Okay, everybody know about this, right? So this is actually the quote that I'm using in our company. Actually, to find a chance within this, actually the gap that becoming smaller. Okay, I give example about social media listening. Who actually has problem with social media listening? Because all of the social media listening actually coming from the Western country. They cannot get the nuance of Indonesian bahasa. Okay, that's a big problem, right? Any social media listening you are buying now, probably they can only identify around 50% as neutral. So simple. Social media listening actually trying to identify what is your brand, your product in the social media. Is it good currently? Is it bad? Is somebody complaining about your product? So usually they will categorize it like, what is the sentiment today? Positive, how many percentage? Negative, how many percentage? So most of the social media listening that now in Indonesia cannot use Indonesian nuance very good. Okay. So that's example number one. That's why we create our own social media listening. And our social media listening actually accuracy very good because of that. Number two, another one. Okay. Okay, we have a lot of tools in the market, like regarding summarizing, giving like a solution in the meeting, or like giving like try to summarize all the meeting schedule you already have, and so on and so on. The problem is they're using public cloud, right? What is the problem when it's leak? Therefore, we create our own product, which is called the localizer, which is actually to summarize, to find the document that you already have, and it's protected on premise. Why? This is actually used by our public relationship. Because our public relationship, public exposure, and so on, we have to be very careful to ensure that the data actually not leak, the one that we don't want to be leaked out. So that's why we created our document on that. But the good thing about it, we actually working with a lot of partners. So a lot of this big company, right? Actually, we are very happy to be their partner because they are sincerely like actually helping us to be in this stage. That's why we are working on that with them to create all these new tools. We are also taking advantage on it, and we also sell this product together with the partner. The other one that we just created actually like Splash, which is the supply and demand monitoring according to the area. Okay, why? Because the current data that you have either from telco data or data from the social media and data from the news cannot be aggregated enough to be able to summarize the supply and demand data in good manner. That's why we work on that. So that's why AI also opening a lot of window for us to create new product, to create new opportunity that we use also in Astra ourselves, and we also use it for some outside the Astra. Actually, some of FMCG already using our product.
Okay, that's very interesting. And it's interesting you mentioned social media listening or listening in general, right? As you can see from my name, I am half Indonesian. My father is Indonesian. So the thing about me is I can understand bahasa. Kalau suruh dengar bisa, tapi kalau bicara agak susah ya. So what I'd like to state is what I noticed just now as well when Pak Soni said good morning, everybody kept quiet. But when he said selamat pagi, everybody was happier, right? So there are cultural nuances. And speaking about cultural nuances, our final panelist, Pak Sigit. Pak Sigit actually spent a lot of time working at a Chevron. He actually worked out of Houston, right, Texas, for a long time, and he came back to Indonesia in 2015. And Chevron eventually folded into Pertamina, which is the organization he runs now. Pak Sigit has a very interesting worldview because from when I met him about a year and a half, 2 years ago, he's always encouraged his team to go outside. So he sent them overseas. He sent them to our events in Thailand, in Malaysia. He's tried to connect with different organizations outside of the region. So Pak Sigit, going back to that, right? When you look at something that is local, something that is very Indonesian, and then you benchmark it, say, against what's happening in the rest of the region or the rest of the world, because your benchmark is Chevron, which is it's the de facto standard when it comes to oil and gas. How do you reconcile international benchmarks with, let's say, Indonesian local benchmarks when you're trying out AI projects, when you have talent shortages? What's the thought process behind the way you think about these things?
Thank you, Paisa. So you mentioned many things, but I'd like to appreciate that one. Basically, benchmarking is very important. Actually, in late 2023, our CEO, Ibu Niga at the time, we were in Canada having kind of a lunch informally after attending one of the event. And he asked me these questions. Pak Sigit, have you done benchmarking? And I said, yes, we have done it. And she said, what I meant is really benchmarking. And I said, "What do you mean, Bu?" We were just two of us, four of us actually in the lunch, and she was mentioning, "Go global." I said, "Well, okay." So I came from you mentioned about Chevron. Yes, I've spent 25 years with Chevron. All encompasses the business side, not only the upstream but also downstream, as well as the business planning and others. And I see the progression of the Chevron in the digital aspect. In fact, in 2015, it was a lady, my colleague, that was heading up the Chevron digital transformation back then. So when I transferred to Pertamina, and I said, well, okay, and we did this benchmarking. But first of all, what we did was 2022, when we did what we call a analytic maturity benchmark. And guess what? Out of 5 scale, Pertamina was on average, because Pertamina is a big group, we have more than 200 affiliates in the group. So on average, we were 1.96 out of 5. It was, and back then, my team and I, we developed kind of a roadmap to be able to develop Pertamina in this sense in terms of people, process, and technology for this, actually having this roadmap to not to be 5. You're talking about 5 is like Amazon. But we said, well, let's, our board saying, Pasik, just go to scale 4, which is kind of a practitioner in terms of doing data analytic AI. So so I think your questions about how we do that, along with benchmarking in the using the data that we have on the analytic maturity, we went to ASEAN, as Pak Isa mentioned. We also went to event of course, in the US as well in the Europe, and we found out that there are some similarities of digital transformation in oil and gas. It's not very aggressive. It's not a tech company, but I can't bear in my colleague in one of the international oil company in Spain, and we talk, and he said his experience to bring up accelerating digital transformation is around 6 years. And I was like, okay, so I feel the pain because I'm at the same industry as him. So since then, we developed kind of that roadmap, and we had this. We have to bring something. So we have to tell our organization that what's in it for the organization with this digital transformation, right? So you mentioned about the value creation, and we did come out with the manifesto that we said data is energy. So because the oil industry, if you see, it's going to be like natural resource, it's going to be depleting. And what other assets that the oil industry can bring? It's their data. And now, some example Paul mentioned, Bu Lily mentioned, and Bu Kurnia mentioned as well. So we are starting creating value using this data, and from the operational excellence, improving safety, cost saving, and even revenue generation. So this kind of stuff, and those encompasses of the people and process and technology. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. I think this is a big problem for a lot of large organizations, especially because of the idea of benchmarking. If you do it, it might give you a bad score, 1.96. And I think it's obviously the easiest thing to do to benchmarking is to look at what other people are doing. And as Asians, we love that. Yeah, we love to look at our neighbors, what they have, what they're eating, what car they drive. We love that. So, Lily, going back to you for your firm as well, are there certain models or companies outside of Indonesia or even within Indonesia that you look to when you think about scaling, your digital transformation, or specifically when you're embarking on AI specific projects?
I think when we embark on our AI project, we start with our internal business problem. So we align with the business strategy. So usually we don't look at other we benchmark with other company in Indonesia, but we start with the business problem. What we can do to help the solve the business problem. So the business come to us. What we can help to solve the problem. So what we can learn from that. How AI can help them to solve the operational problem, how we can make the business process more efficient, how we can help them to make the to grow their business as a revenue generation. So how to reduce the risk, the first time we remember that when we introduced the machine learning model to the risk management team, they asked how your model can help us to even more help us in managing the risk. And at that time, they are very they don't believe how the machine learning system can help, but when we introduce the system and we explain that the system already embedded with the explainability, like what Ibu Kurnia said, that, and when we explain that, they can accept that, and at that time they willing to try the model, and that's the trust built, and then they accept the model. And at the time we know that the trust is the very good starting point for them to adopt, to embrace the AI in their business process. And when the one business process one business team they accept the process they adopt the AI in their business process, and they can talk. There is a momentum for other business unit to adopt also. This the way how we make the adoption to all the business unit. So from one business unit to other business unit. So the success story from one business unit, we tell from one business unit the success story to other business unit. So they can also embrace the AI in their business unit.
Thank you. And I think I'd like to go back to Paul. Paul, you mentioned just now something, and this is a question from the floor, by the way, because you mentioned how difficult it is to, the process is iterative, meaning you just need to keep learning, right? You mentioned ChatGPT opened up AI to the world, but now we're at GPT-5 in just a short span of a year and a half. And then internally, I think all four of you will agree, and even ourselves, but for ourselves, it's very, very difficult to have a process, change it, have a process, change it, have a process, change it. People like comfort. People like to stick to old processes. And you mentioned just now about some processes have to change. They will not exist. But Sigit mentioned natural resources will just go down. So when it comes to change and change management, I think this is the question that quite a lot of people have upvoted here. How do you do change management in your organizations? Because you're not running a startup. You're not running 2 people, 3 people, but Lily mentioned, or get one person or one business unit to buy in. But that's not that easy, right? Can you give maybe a specific example of how you drive change internally, maybe?
Maybe I'll give an analogy, okay? I always make an analogy like this. Transformation, changing a company is actually like you are steering, you are actually leading a ship, right? The bigger the company, the bigger the ship, okay? The problem is you need to actually make a turn. It's like before you go into this direction, because of the disruption, changing, and so you have to go to the right. Okay? And this is actually coming to what you're saying before. Changing transformation actually a bit of art and a bit of technology. So this is the beauty about it. When you maneuver too quick, too fast, too strong, a lot of people will actually thrown out of the boat, of the ship, because they cannot keep up with the changing and so on. But if you actually steering too slow, you will not be able to turn the ship to the right direction. So yes, to be honest, I have to be very blank here. There will be sacrifice. You cannot changing the company without sacrifice. You cannot say like 100% of the people. If the people doesn't want to change, we cannot force them to change. Right? So, but I always give the also in the second analogy that I always give to the to the people like this one. Okay, this is a bit in bahasa. Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
if the people, you know, like the Ojo, right? Ojek online, which is like the motorbike taxi, right? Before they call motorbike pangkalan, like Ojek pangkalan. If they can change now using application to receive order, to bid, to find order, to change actually their habit, to make their routine about them their self, right? What is your reason? I say to everyone, not to change, saying like, I cannot change. If they can, why you say you cannot change? Another analogy I always give like this. I was a director in Bluebird also, right? So give an example. Okay. Bluebird average of age of the driver 42 years old. Okay. Not like Grab, not like Gojek. Beginning of 30, end of 20. So can you imagine when we started transformation in Bluebird, more than 30% didn't even ever touch smartphone in their life ever. They don't have smartphone. They never touch smartphone in their life. So how are you going to change about that? If they can change, what is the reason you cannot change? Of course, we make a lot of the mindset change process that very thorough. For example, we even create like a partnership with one of the mobile company to create special package mobile device for the driver. We even create like with a telco company, actually with two telco company, to create special package for the driver. That's number three. We actually asking for the people that want to go to early retirement to be a trainer. The people actually has patience to be training. So there actually a lot of people, you also know, a lot of people has patience to teach people. A lot of people have patience to be coach. Why don't you use those people to be the trainer, to be the coach, and give them the target that they can achieve by doing this change management? The answer for that, doing change management is an art. There is no one single solution for everything. It depends on your situation. It depends on your condition of your company. For small company can be like this. For young company can be like that. For like an older company can be like that. So there is no one single solution for everything. So it's always say it's an art.
And to understand that art, you need to understand the local culture, right? In terms of Indonesia, the culture in Astra. Let's go back to maybe Kurnia, especially when it comes to in a bank. Yeah, a bank needs to be pretty fast moving. Regulators are on you every day. Your app goes down for a day. Your customers are very unhappy with you. When you talk about change within a bank of Mandiri size, especially coming from your perspective where you run data and analytics, data by itself is data, right? It's what you do with the data that happens. But Lily mentioned the example of, here, I give you a machine learning model, and then I need to tell you why it's good for you. Can you give maybe some examples of what you do as well internally to change the mindsets of, well, people within Mandiri, but also your customers, your clients, your partners?
Yeah. So in the era of like the data is a new energy or a new oil. Yeah. So in an era where maybe tadi Pak Sigit mentioned that data is a new energy or the new oil. So what we do is to demonstrate that by looking at the data, looking at the insight, there are opportunity that you can unlock, right? So we try to demonstrate it with showing the impacts or the monetization impact beside. By looking at the data, we can find out, for example, in our apps, what are the features that we may need to show more to our customer because it generates a lot of money for us. So then we also use that for identifying who our customer that we need to retarget, for example, or in kind of a business processes. There are so many priorities, right? Maybe many potential opportunity that they can engage with the customer and informing them of a relevant solution for them. But we only have not too much of a resources, so it's important to prioritize. So what we did is really to demonstrate and try as much as possible the impacts and how it could help them to achieve their business. whether it's from acceleration, whether from better insight on whom to target, on how you prioritize your resources. So that's what we did, and also we try as much as possible to democratize the data insight. So like many of our employee will get an access to the performance of the business that is relevant for them, and they can use it as a kind of like alert as well, and also to know where they are, which part that they need to improve in a faster way. So that's how we try to be embedding that kind of a culture in our company. Yeah, because I mean, especially as possibly in a data science, right? I mean, you came up with like these very sophisticated models, and I'm sure it's often very difficult, right? You run so many models just to get the right ones, but at the end of the day, for the business, what matters is like, okay, how does that will help my business, and to insert that into their business process is very crucial, because if it's not part of their business process, it will just like, oh, okay, good to know. So that's a key, and that's what we always aim for, to do that. Yeah. And in terms of AI, I think it's important to create your wins first, right? There's so many potential solution on it, but you need to be focused on what you're doing. So use or pick several key cases that can demonstrate with no doubts on the impact of for that unit or for that particular task, whether it is on the risk side, whether it is for operational efficiency. And once they see it, then I think more and more requests, more and more use cases will came very soon. So, yeah.
So it's planting seeds, and hopefully the trees grow and they perpetuate themselves, right?
Oh, well, it's planting seed is one thing, but I guess it's very important that we need to be focused, right? And I think when it comes to AI, it's not just an agenda of the data science; it is an agenda of the company, right? Because if we don't move fast, others will move and leverage that and more augmented than us. So I think we should not take it too lightly on the importance of innovation, especially in AI, in how it could really transform the business processes and creating a real impact, like in a dollar value, I mean.
That's a great point. So going back, and I think I'd like to connect that to effectively what Pak Sigit, that's your job, no? Maybe what you can do is you can give, I'm not sure how familiar the audience is with Pertamina's digital hub. It's gone through quite a few iterations the last year and a half. So maybe you could explain maybe to everybody. Everybody should be interested because Pertamina is your national oil company, so everybody is affected somehow. Maybe you can explain Pertamina Digital Hub and its role within the larger Pertamina organization, especially when it comes specific to furthering interest in the digital space or in the AI space.
Certainly, yeah. I think, and I'd like to appreciate my team. They have already, prepared the kind of slide deck. If you will, if I may just, so the slide. I think that's slide number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. Slide number 4.
Okay, we are getting
okay?
Pak Sigit's slide on.
So I think sometimes visual can help, right? So this is kind of the visual, assist to help you to understand on what Pertamina Digital Hub is. So basically, we have 3 pillars that we are developing for Pertamina Group, as I mentioned before, in the room of data, analytic, and AI. And we have 3 pillars from the remote surveillance, because we have so many assets across Indonesia that we need to put our vision on, basically. So it's more of a data visualization driven. And then we have the technical orchestration center that will kind of be a collaboration or between the value chain of Pertamina, upstream, downstream, midstream, and also the renewable energy as well. So we kind of having this orchestration in terms of data, analytic, and AI. And in the middle, you see the what we call a digital factory, which is the kind of a new. This came from Benchmark, by the way. And because we are not a technology company, we need to be able to deliver our digital solution, as I mentioned before. And this factory, we just embarked this year, and our target is to deliver more values in terms of tangible, hard money, dollar value, million of US of dollar, and then also intangible aspects like safety and the efficiency and others. I remember last year, we won the winner of this, and that was the use case that we used what we call AI rule based for the subsidized fuel distribution, and we keep doing that. AI rule based. We are using AI, computer vision, and other. And we, if you go to slide number 6, you will see what we. So 2 after this. If you go down a bit, up one before this, this one. So we use this case based. It's not a holistic. So you have the approach of holistic that you wanna all organization need to embrace AI and all do transform their business using this holistic view. In Pertamina, using the digital factory, our approach is more of use case based. So meaning, what are the priority of the business that will deliver value the most, that come to the factory for us to deliver the solution and then implement and transform the business using the digital solution. As I mentioned before, AI for computer vision, rule based, and for many aspects in our organization. I think before this slide, the digital factory. This is kind of the schematic diagram about it. I think for you running the organization with you have the OT, you have the IT, and you have to have someone that is actually using all the technology, the data come from the OT and also IT, to be able to deliver and transform the data into the value. So this kind of a initiative, innovation that we have with Pertamina, Pak Irsa, basically, for us to drive this impact for Pertamina going forward to deliver value from the data and AI. Yes.
Have you seen, especially since it's iterated quite a bit over the last 1-2 years, have you seen resistance, whether it's with partners, whether it's internally, when people try, hey, last year it was like this, now it's like this. Have you seen resistance? Can you speak about that?
Certainly, yeah. I think everyone understand the word disruption, right? Paul just mentioned about Bluebird and Gojek and stuff. I think that's part of disruption, and what we are doing actually disrupt our company to be able to move forward. So yes, there are resistance, and is that good or not? It really depends on how to react, basically. So at the beginning, when we start this mission, I would say, I call it this way. We build plane while flying. Kita bangun pesawat sambil terbang. Itu yang kita lakukan. Jadi it's a build plane while flying, because everyone can, Pertamina started digital transformation in 2018. So like now it's 7 years, right? So what we need to do is an acceleration. So we have the infrastructure, we have the technology, we have somewhat people that we need to accelerate the progress on the digital transformation. And we said, okay, so now that we have all, it's not yet that we can fly and do the cruise flying, right? But we need to do it right away, basically, build the plane while flying safely. And that's what we do. And basically, we embrace the support, of course. First, we did, the first time we did like top down to understand the priorities and deliver the result so that people know. So when we deliver tangible results and intangible results from the AI analytics that we did through the digital factory, and people can start seeing. So they want to see what actually you are doing. And then, after that, of course, there's still resistance because status quo is always be there. But more and more by timing, we can prove that this can bring progression. And also, I would say new or unlock new revenue for Pertamina, which is not only oil and gas, right? and then it can demonstrate that yes, we can survive and be sustained in managing our business going forward.
Thank you, Pak Sigit. So we have two analogies. Pak Paul saying a ship that if you turn too fast, people fall off the ship. And Pak Sigit built plane while flying. Ketakutan, yeah, sounds very scary, yeah. But I think that's the truth. I think the ability to accept risks, which brings us to the next thing I want to talk about, which is risks. And risk can be identified in a lot of different ways, but the biggest thing is financial risks, right? I think the bankers in this panel will appreciate this a bit more. When I talk about financial risks, Paul, you alluded just now, these software companies, they try to tell you services, they try to sell you the cloud, they get embedded into your system, and then you forever have to pay them X thousand, X million per year for the rest of your life. And that's not generally what you want. So when you start to look into projects, AI specific projects, usually it's with a vendor, because it's just not part of your business to build projects. It's not your primary business. How do you actually start thinking about the value of the pilot projects you implement, and then B, is there an idea of the long-term value that you get back from spending X dollars on a certain project? This is for any of the panelists. All of you have spoken about risks, all of you have spoken about value, but how do you think about financial, if I pay X dollars now, what am I hoping to get in return? So any of the panelists. Everybody's looking at the bankers, yeah?
All right, of course, just a very quick one. But this one coming from, again, listening from the experience from the kind of other international oil company. I asked questions, during the 6 years of journey in Transmore, during the digital transformation, and how much, risk that you can accept. And he said to me, we can accept 13 to 15% rate, fail, which is quite, I would say, quite moderate.
Say that again, 13 to 15?
To 15, 13 to 15%. So out of, let's say, $100 million US, they will, they accept to have like 13-15 million US sunk cost. So basically no investment with no ROI on that one, which is, I would say that's a bit of I would say, to me, is an open eye, because we have to be, accept the risk. We need to manage it, but we need to be able to also saying that, yeah, if we deliver this solution for the business, and then they try to implement it and scale it up, there are some tolerance that we need to put there. Whether that 13 or 15% is really depend on the appetite, risk appetite of each of the organization, right? So I just mentioned about the one of the benchmark. So yes, we need to think about the risk and how to minimize those risks, and really depend on the appetite of this each organization. That's my thinking. Thank you.
Great point. That's very specific. Any of the other panelists, how do you look at projects, the dollar value, and 13 to 15% sounds decent, but I think on the other extreme, Paul, I think if you invest in startup is 2%. 2% success. Yeah. So anybody else? How do you think about financial risk and outcomes?
Yeah, maybe I give like another example, right? So I give like two example. Okay, it's actually related on the make or buy decision. I think like people that are already in procurement business, very familiar regarding you want to build it yourself or you want to buy it. Okay, let's give a simple analogy regarding using public cloud. Okay, using cloud. Okay? The more they want you to use it more and more. Right? Okay. Now the question, when do you going to come to hybrid? When you're going to go to co-location? When actually you're going to go pure on public cloud? Okay. So when you, simple thing, right? When your business is still small and so on, it's okay to go to public cloud. But imagine this situation, okay? You have customer profile about 20 years customer. So you have like 20 years of customer profile, right? Okay. Probably the most interaction actually with the customer in the last 5 years. Okay. Do you want to keep the customer in 15 years also in the public cloud? It will be expensive, right? Because your access is very seldom. But you need to keep it because if this customer access your system, you want them to be happy and you want them to be served. So that's actually coming when actually you're going to build, you're going to use the system of hybrid, right? So when you're going to use co-location or you're going to do on-premise, there's also another question, right? How strong is your IT? How good is your IT with the shifting and operation? If not, do co-location and hybrid with public cloud. So not simple like that. Okay. Second example. Okay. We are now building our own kind of LLM, right? In a way, because we are believe in the future of about the chat center, call center, together with AI and so on. The problem with the call center, chat center, actually the sentiment. Okay. You cannot actually measure the performance of each of the employee. Are they really happy unless you're doing actually usually after this call, are you okay to be survey about the satisfaction of your customer? Of course, nobody want to answer that. Okay? So the best way actually, can you use AI to measure the sentiment of the caller and also the one actually chat with your call center or chat center? Okay. The problem, if you're using the current LLM model that available in the market, they're using token in the pricing. The more the complex question they ask, the more calculation they need, the more expensive it is. Usually in the cloud business, you only put like the maximum total month budget that should not be cross, right? But you cannot actually choose what kind of algorithm you use to use the token. That's a big problem. So actually you are dealing with things that you don't know the algorithm behind it. How many token will be used for any of the discussion? How to deal with that? Can you combine the public of LLM together with the open source developed LLM to manage the cost better in the future? By doing that, you're also going to increase your intellectual property. Because the intellectual property, the more you train the LLM model of the public one, the more smarter they are, but you don't have the IP. Think about that. Okay. The last example, okay, there's Yanuar, the boss of IT from AOP. Give a simple thing. He's doing now a big project, right? Simple thing. Okay? He's now also doing the selection of the make or buy decision. If the doing the pilot, do we need already built all together? Or is it better actually just to use to buy? When it's actually achieve certain size, then we build it. Or we build it in the beginning, from the beginning in parallel. So we will be prepared when actually we're going to doing the transition. So this is actually the job of all your CIO or CTO to ensure that the long term of your cost is manageable. Be careful with all the algorithm about AI. Be careful. It is always look very beautiful when they present it, but it's not beautiful when they send you the bill. So be careful with that.
The two ladies.
Yeah. Talking about AI, we have to consider about the risk, the benefit, and about the cost, the risk, and the benefit. Yeah, because the first time when we want to implement AI, like talking about GPU, yeah, when we want to buy GPU at the first time, maybe if you buy a full set of GPU, it's very costly. But if you want, we only buy a card maybe. But in the future, we want to scale. When we want to buy, it's not maybe not available in the market. We have to wait for certain time, a certain period of time to be delivered to us. So it's quite challenge for us. So yeah, it's kind of how to balance between of course the cost, not only about the time, how when we invest in GPU, but also to balance, because you know that GPU is very costly. Not only about the investment, but also about the power consumption. So we need to balance when we use the GPU or CPU between training the model or inferencing, because inferencing using the lower cost, lower power, and so we can use the CPU for the inferencing, and the testing we can use the GPU, and also about the benefit. I think to track the benefit, we need to have a well defined KPI, so we can track the benefit of the AI use case itself. So we know how we can get from the each use case. So like for our case, we have a well defined KPI, and we prioritize which use case that can have the most benefit for us. So we track the achievement for each use case, and then we from that we can know how many percentage that we achieve from the efficiency, or how much monetary we already achieve in each use case. So we know that not only experimentation, so beyond experimentation, we deliver the real business value for each use case we already built in the AI. That's the case in our side. So we need to balance also about the risk that we know that every and the engine still outside Indonesia, right, in the cloud. So we need to consider about putting our data in the using the LLM on the cloud. So we need to think about putting the data on the cloud. But luckily, lately that the on-prem LLM already available, we can use the on-prem one. So with the on-prem LLM, we can use it for the confidential data. So it's very good. We already tested. Very good for especially for the OCR. So we try to use it for the OCR technology.
So you mentioned everything from, OCR all the way to like GPUs,
Yeah.
short-term versus
Yeah.
long-term value. So for each one, I think what you're saying is you have to assess it on an ROI basis, yeah? And ROI, does it matter the time frame? Like how far ahead? Buying GPUs, really expensive, really long-term. And also you have GPU models coming up maybe every few periodically. How do you, okay, if it's a small project, have you started to maybe, how would I say, decentralized? Do people get to say, hey, this thing might help my business unit or might help my personal work? Can they then come up to maybe the IT team or the CIO office and say, can we start implementing it? Versus what is, like Pak Sigit mentioned just now, top down, or we are going to invest in GPU because we want to build our own LLM, or we want to build our own AI, as Pak Paul mentioned.
So the IT the business unit get the problem. So they with the problem they have, they come to the IT. So we analyze whether their problem can be solved with the AI, or maybe just they don't need the AI. They just need the simple maybe automation, something like that. So we help them to analyze whether they really need AI or they just need a simple automation. Something the problem can be like that also. So we are the one that analyze, and we centralize the decision whether to invest in GPU or not. So we are the one that know how to do the investment in the hardware itself. So we also combine with the uses of the GPU itself, whether we invest or we use GPU as a service, especially for the development.
Thank you. Kurnia, you want to finish us up for this little question?
Sure. So basically, just echoing what the other speaker have said. So for every project, it's important to know what's the value in it, but the way we measure it will be different from one project to another. So take, for example, if you're working in kind of like, say, a fraud detection things, so the value will be on how much of a potential loss that can be prevented with the new models, right? Or if it's about an automations with the use of agentic in this case, it can be a faster time to market, as well as the kind of like the amount of man days that can be created just because of this way of agentic AI being used. And I think maybe just to add a bit to what Paul has said, that the bill can be very big at the end, and to kind of preventing it, I think we can consider of a hybrid approach on it. Really depends on the scale, really depends on the appetite of the risk as well. But we we can maybe split, for example, like to build the concept or to build the MVP, the MVP solutions. Maybe we can use the cloud for a faster development time. But if we see that, okay, now we are already gathered, but we will need the scale, we will need a massive amount of a response time, for example, that have to be managed, then on-prem can be a solution. Because otherwise, the cost might outweigh the benefit. Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think we are running out of questions. Thank you for all of you who have asked a lot of questions. This is one of the most number of questions that I've received, and I've tried to embed the questions into the panelists. So we've run out of time, but I'd like one final question to all the panelists. And this is a very, very simple question, right? If to give you some context, when I met Pak Sigit, I think a year and a half, 2 years ago, the one thing he kept asking, or the one thing he kept talking about, Pak, I'm not sure if you remember, was how many data scientists are in your company. So he was comparing whether it was a retail company, another company in Malaysia, another company in Thailand, how many data scientists do you have in your company? And that was a single metric he kept speaking about. And this year, when we speak to him, his own numbers have been increasing. Yeah. So maybe to paraphrase it, it's like last time you're 1.96, maybe now you're 2.01, then maybe 2.07. Transformation is a path. So, but first you need to identify a metric. And this is an opinion. You're not speaking. This is just, I wanted your thought. If there is a single metric, and I know it's oversimplifying it as well, if there is a single metric you can track over the next 1 year, just 1 year, in terms of making your firm capable of adopting AI, any metric, it could be financial, it could be operational. What metric do you think you would want to look at? Just one final question for all the 4 panelists. This time, we will let the gentleman go first.
Okay, I can start there. Yeah. So for us in Astra, we actually develop what we call digital index. So Swandi, the boss for that, which is actually the measurement about very tangible about how much revenue created from digital and how much cost saving created from digital. So it has to be derived into a number. So no matter how many projects, you can say how many projects you have, but when it cannot be translated into a number that can be proved and can be audited, it's nothing. Okay, that's very clear for us. And the one that we created, the new one that's not yet published, is actually Digital Maturity Index. Okay, so Astra has about almost 300 companies, one day. Yeah, so it's for ourselves cannot be always in all the companies, right? So we created Digital Maturity Index for the company to benchmark themselves, to measure them all about the one I said, right? Operation governance, technology, infrastructure, and so on. People, resources, capability, and so on. So basically around these 3 metrics, where they can measure themselves regarding their digital maturity assessment and also regarding the AI. Okay? So different with Pak Sigit, we have a bit different approach. Pak Sigit, actually we are reducing our data analytics because of the using of AI. So in general, from 2022 to now, we reduce our employee in our digital organization essentially by 15%. By using of AI, by using of technology and so on. Because we have to be more effective, more efficient, less people, more work.
Thank you, Paul. So digital maturity index that you make each of your companies assess themselves, and then also the revenue contribution from digital. Pak Sigit?
Yeah, I think one particular aspect there, if I may just, from last 1.5 years up to now, my critical point still within Pertamina is still the people, still the expertise, still the talent that we need to develop. So, we are still using that kind of a parameter now because, really the key enabler of the technology, the infrastructure that we have is the people. And we need to make them basically have the growth mindset in terms of using the technology to deliver value. And that's how we, and since last 1.5 years to now, and going forward, we need to continue developing expertise and talent to build up our organization capability in the digital aspect. So I think that's the most critical for Pertamina.
So for you, the critical thing is talent.
Yeah, thank you.
I think for us will be on the dollar value impacts that is created based on the analytics and AI use cases that are live in production. Because I think, resources for us are very critical, right? Because we see there's so many potential problems that can be solved with using AI. And we also see AI as a way to augment us and maybe accelerate the problem solving for it. So, I think it's really boiled down to that metrics, and we want to have our people to have a purpose and meaningful impacts as well, right? So I think that will be for us.
Dollar value. Okay. And for Lily?
I think the same. So tied to the business strategy. Yeah, whether it's operational efficiency or growth. Yeah, and also employee productivity.
Employee productivity. Okay, so a lot of it is human centric. Yeah,
It's nice to know all of you. Hopefully, you get bigger, better jobs, more pay also. So, once again, thank you to our panelists. I think we've come to an end of this session, and I will hand it back to YY.
We hope you've enjoyed the episode. For more information about business growth in the ASEAN region, please visit our website www.iotbusiness-platform.com.